Okay, all right, guys. Now I have to confirm a little information that I didn't tell you guys earlier during my process on installing all the belts back onto my Eclipse, the alternative belts and the alternative power steering belts. Now, some of the term on the bolts that I didn't tell you guys earlier is you have to notice that the alternator components, like that's That's the alternator brackets which hold the bottom of the alternator, okay? And that big bolt right there is called uh, pivot bolts, okay? That big bolt right there that's holding between the alternator brackets and the alternator bottom. Yes, that's the pivot bolt. It's a big bolt, and there's a total of 3 bolts together around the alternator. This is one of it, and there's another 2 bolts from the top of the alternator, and the top of the alternator has the it's not called bracket, okay? That black piece is actually called brace. It's kind of like a bracket, but that's what they call in the manual book that I have. It's called a brace. So that big black brace bracket there, uh, it's on top of the alternator, and it's holding the alternator by two nuts and bolts, two crisscross nuts and bolts. And those crisscross nuts and bolts is one of it is called the adjustable bolts, which is coming from the back of this black brace. You can't really see it like my videos. I've been telling you guys, you can't really see it. You can feel it. You can go down and tighten that bolt and screw that bolt, whatever. But you can't see it. Okay, it's like on the back of these brackets. Okay. Well, my camera is it's not so bright today. It's daytime. I don't know why it's not so bright. I have the lights on too on my camera. But anyway, that adjustable bolts from behind that this brace, this black brace is the adjustable bolt, okay? And if you work on it, you know what I'm talking about. And this nuts right here, it's called a lock nut, okay? It has a bolt too. It's going between like from the alternator to the the black brace, and it's hidden from the back of this black brace. You can't really see it. You can see the part of the bolts coming out and the nuts right there, and this is called a lock nuts, okay? First, uh, what bolts and nuts you need to tighten after after I installed the alternator belts on is I would tighten this bolt right here. And my manual book, I have a manual book for my Eclipse, and it doesn't even tell me like what's the torque of these bolts and nuts and the adjustable, how you adjust it. The adjustable bolt is you gotta know how to adjust it. They don't tell you like what's the torque or whatever. It's the adjustable bolt. So technically you have to know how to adjust it, stretch out the belt right to adjust that bolt. So there's no torque, okay? The only torque that they're talking about is torquing the bolts or torquing the nuts is is the is these right here, these bolts and nuts right here, but the manual don't even tell me about the torque on, like it might tell me to torque the alternator brackets nuts, I mean bolts, these bolt right here, the alternator bracket bolts. Yes, they'll tell me that like it's around 25 foot-pound or so, but like for this pivot bolt between the bracket and the alternator, this big bolt, the manual don't even tell me. I did some research, and most of them say it's around, but it's from other cars, okay? But these boat will be around 20 to 25 foot-pound, okay? Because it's a big boat. So you just gotta kind of know how to estimate torquing the boat too, from your experience and from other cars that torquing the boat from. Um, and this nuts right here is to hold the alternator from the top to the brace. You see that? Yes. And nuts is taut to like, it didn't even say it in the manual either, okay? But I researched these, like around this nut size, it's gonna be taut around 15 to 20 foot-pound, okay? About 18 foot-pound at the most. Excuse me, guys. And and you know, when you tauten bolts and nuts, you don't want to over tauten, okay? Just want to let you know that if you feel like it's tightened, then it's tightened. Don't over tauten it. You just gotta have the feeling, okay? Just gotta have experience too, and you know, once you have experience, you know how to feel to tighten the bolts and the nuts together in a car engine. And you just gotta know how to feel it. I mean, at this point, you know, if you're an experienced mechanic, you shouldn't, you know, I mean, you shouldn't need to listen to me too, because you already know what you're doing. But for the new people, or people who never touch, never work on a car, or never taught a boat like this before, that's why I'm explaining to for them, like really detailed, you know, so they'll know what, you know, really to look out for. And what I'm talking about here is what's important and what's, you know, what you need to keep an eye on. And it's just my advice, you know. So, but after you install the alternator belt on, the first thing you will need to do is tighten the pivot bolt, okay? This big bolt down here, okay? That's called pivot bolt, okay? Kind of tighten that down first, okay? But don't tighten too much until like you adjust the belt, stretch out and all that, right? Okay. Secondly, you want to uh, turn in the adjustable bolt, okay, which is behind this black brace, okay? You can't really see it. Adjust that until you see the alternator. You see my white line right there that I mark on the brace? Yeah, make sure this alternator is lined up with that line, you know, whenever I marked it from the beginning before I, losing out the alternator. So make sure I adjust that bolt back here to where this bolt right here lines up with that lines right there that I marked. And lastly, after I adjust it right and everything, stretch out the bolts, lastly, I will tighten this nuts right here, okay? This is called lock nuts. That's the last nuts. That's why it's called lock nuts. So that's the last thing you should do is lock this nuts up. Once I finish adjusting the adjustable bolts, okay? And the torque on this nut is around 15 to 18 foot-pound. Okay, that's like maximum. 20 foot-pound maybe, but you should know how to feel it. And you can torque this bolt, okay, from, because like up here, if you're gonna tighten that bolt, you're gonna have to remove all this component up here on the top if you're working on the top of the engine, okay? But to tighten this bolt, you don't necessarily need to take all these out, because I use the wrenches to tighten this. That's what I use to like loosen it from the beginning. So I use a wrench, like this is like a 13mm wrench, and then tighten it back on. You just got to use your force and feel, what's a 15 foot-pound is, if you're not going to use a torque wrench, okay? But most mechanic, they don't use torque wrench, like they feel it, okay, to tauten or tighten any bolts. So I will use a wrenches, W-R-E-N-C-H, okay, not the wrench here. This is called wrench. I will use a wrenches, like I already put it up, but you know what I'm talking about. A wrenches should have two heads on each side. So you can, work from the top here when you tighten that lock nuts. But like when I do the adjustable bolts, I have to go down. I have to work it from down here to adjust that bolt. Also, I have to tighten this bolt right here from down here. Okay. The only time I'm working up here to tighten that is to tighten that lock nuts. That's it. And and that's it to install the alternator belts on right. adjustable, how to tighten the bolts and when to adjust the bolt and where is the bolt. I tell you, I go over with you guys all that. And last thing I'm gonna talk about is to install the power steering belts and tighten it, and tighten it with the adjustable bolts. So I've already installed the belt on right and everything. I just haven't really finished tightening it, but I'm just gonna make a video showing you guys before I do that. Is my last video is I told you guys to hold this power steering hole and push it back with one hand and tighten this adjustable bolts using this wrench here with the 14mm socket. Tighten it while you pull it back, okay? And the torque is the same thing. My manual don't even tell me what the torque is, but mostly this bolt torque, this is the adjustable bolt, okay? You can tighten it, you can feel it to tighten it, or you can tighten down to 20 foot-pound, okay, around there. But here is where it's located. The adjustable bolt is right here, okay? That's where it's located. Not this bolt, not that bolt over there, okay? This bolt right here is where it locates on the 98 Mitsubishi Eclipse GS 2.0 liter, right? So once I'm tightening that down, everything's right. All my belts tightened, and not yet. I'm not starting the engine yet until I finish putting up the reservoir, the coolant reservoir bottle back on with the hose, and then I should be ready to crank up the engine, let it run, see and hear how the belts, runs. If the belt is squishing or something, you might think, you might over torquing or over stretching the belt. Turn off the engine and release the tension a little bit, release the adjustable bolt a little bit on each belt. Like, if it's an alternator belt, go down and adjust that adjusting bolt, loosen it out a little bit to loosen the belt out a little bit. And if it's the power steering, do the same thing, loosen out this adjustable bolt, but you gotta push it. You gotta use this hole to push it up to release the belt, or pull it back to stretch the belt. That's how it is with the power steering pulley belts, okay? It's different than the alternator uh, adjustable pulley belts, okay? How they work is different, okay? How they adjust and, tension is different than each other, okay? It's not the same thing. Same with the AC. Everything is different when you do the adjustable belts. If you're using the AC, if you're installing a belt for your AC, same thing. The adjustable outer little pulley is right there. You just gotta, there's a tension and adjustable nuts and bolts. It's right there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right there. So that's how you tension the belts, okay? Every component has its own tension adjustable for the belts, okay? Every device, every like alternator, power steering, and AC device, they all have their own adjustable tension bolts and nuts, okay? So you just gotta know how to work that. That's it. It's pretty simple, it's straightforward. It's just either stretch it, pull it back, or screw it in to stretch it, or unstretch it is the reverse, okay? Now to install or uninstall the belt is just reverse. How you uninstall the belt is the reverse of how you install a belt, and how you install a belt is the reverse of how you uninstall it. It's just simple as that, okay? Just put parts back on and take it off, just like that. uh, if you're a technical guy or person, then you shouldn't have no problem with that. uh, but I'm not just talking and speaking for technical people. I'm speaking for people that listen, people that listen to learn too, not just for people just to visualize, see, and learn, okay? By me explaining for people out there is for people who, who's not good with seeing and do it, but, it's for both, okay? My explanation is for both people who can see the work and people who just listen and understand and then do it. That's how it is. So the last thing I'll go over with you with the belt is, while I'm here, I'm gonna check my timing belts cover. Like I say, like check the timing belt, see if it's wet or not. Because before, when the street mechanic installed, my engine, and they installed my timing belt and the timing components on this side, is they installed the timing cover, and they forgot to ask me, or they didn't. At least they asked me, if I have the timing cover gasket. They just installed the timing cover gasket, like the inner. They didn't even install any gasket for the inner timing cover. See that? And the outer. They didn't have any gasket whatsoever all around the timing cover. Okay, so that's a bad sign for my engine right there. But it's still running. It's just leaks, like I say. It leaks from on the bottom. And now I'm taking this timing cover on the top here, with this timing cover, the bolts here, I take it out to check my timing belts, see if it's have any oil or wet. If I see oil and wet, that means it's a bad sign. I have a leakage or oil, leak all over my timing belt. If that happens, I have a mechanic issue. I need to bring it to a shop or something, take out the timing components and do the timing again. But at this point, I take out this cover to check my timing belts, and the timing belt is dry. It's like there's no oil, no residue or anything like that, but only because before I paint, my cam sprocket, and they told me not to paint it. That's why it's chipping off the paint, and the paint just go inside all over, my timing component, which is not really a good sign either. But it's just little paints, I don't think it's gonna hurt or anything, but maybe the long term it might hurt. But another downside I saw is, I don't know if it's the right thing or not, or like you see how the sprocket and the timing belt is not really aligned. Like when they install my timing belt, I think they install it too much, too much inward. You know what I mean? Like you see that, you can see the line, and it's almost touch it to the back side here. The timing belt. So whenever the engine runs, I move the timing belt. I push it this way a little bit. This way, it's grinding. So, but it's not grinding when I release it out. It's normal. So I think that's normal too. They just kind of install the timing belt like too much inward, or this is just, or it could be like a regular thing. Like this could be like a normal thing. That's how the timing belt should install. Is that should have a little gap right there, instead of like install it all the way out here. So now it's all the way in here a little bit. So it's almost touched the back here. It's like a gap, but I mean, I think it's normal because my engine runs fine, like nothing wrong with it. So I guess when they installed that my timing components, they did it right. They did a good job on that, I guess, but not the leaking part, because they forgot to ask me about the timing belt cover gasket, like the gasket around the timing belt cover. It's my fault too, because I didn't provide them that, and I didn't remind them about that. And they didn't remind me about that either. They just go ahead and install it because they need the money. They don't care. Street mechanic, they don't care about your ends. If you forgot on your ends, oh well, that's too bad. That's how it is. So I'm just saying the truth, all right? So the truth hurt all the time, every time. The truth always hurt, but at least you know it, and at least I know it, and I learn from experience and mistakes, so to avoid it the next time. That's all. And you know, you could use a wrench, or this kind of wrench socket to you know to loosen this timing cover cap here. This cover, it's like a little cover here, where you can take it out to check your timing, see if it's breaks or whatever. That's what they invent this cover for. And the bolt size right there, and there should be like 6 all around, timing cover, this kind of bolts. And I'm gonna end the video from here, and I'll show you guys once I put everything back on, and once it's running good and all that, and I'll go to the next tune up, like uh, switching out, buying new lights, bolts. I find out that I've already changed new spark plugs. So if you guys check out my videos, I probably have the videos when I redo the spark plugs. Installing new spark plugs on, and like install the distributor and all that. Back in the day when I just finished rebuilding this 98 Eclipse here on the engine. So you want to go ahead and go back and check all the videos that I post when I do the rebuild on this engine. And that's a lot of videos so far. Up until this point, I have a lot of videos when I post up, when I rebuild this engine, and before and after. And I just stopped taking picture. I'm making videos instead of taking picture, which you know some people like to see picture, and some people just rather watch videos. But I'm gonna go on from here. So it's pretty much done. I just gotta finish up my work, and it's pretty much done. I've already give you guys a lot of like all the information how to install these serpentine belts on my 98 Eclipse GS 2.0 liter, no turbo. All right. I'm Young Leo. Thanks for watching my channel. If you can, just like, thumbs up, subscribe, share, um, and please do leave appropriate comments. All right, guys. Young Leo is signing out for now. Bye bye. Take care.